Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Nourisher Podcast. Today, I am joined by someone whose story is yet another beautiful reminder that it is never too late to begin again. Karen Benckenstein has walked through divorce, career change, loss, and seasons of uncertainty, and yet each challenge has pushed her closer to the life that she was truly meant to live. Now she's stepping boldly into her passion as a writer and using her words to inspire others to live authentically and build lives that feel true to who they are. In this conversation, Karen opens up about what it takes to pick yourself up after hardship, the importance of community and support, and the courage that it takes to actually follow your dreams, even when the path isn't linear. Today is all about resilience, authenticity, and the beauty of starting fresh. So, if that sounds like something you're into, let's dive in. Ready to take your writing to new heights? You won't want to miss the New Frontiers in Writing. It's a 2-day conference hosted by the Texas High Plains Writers, which is one of the oldest continuously run writing groups in the nation. From September 27th through 28th at the Embassy Suites in downtown Amarillo, you'll enjoy workshops, classes, a keynote luncheon with Taylor Moore, and even a chance to pitch your work to agents and editors. Plus, there's going to be a grown-up book fair. I mean, come on. Everybody loves a book fair. And the best part is, it's open to both attendees and the public. So bring a friend. Registration for the conference is only $379 and space is limited. So head over to newfrontiersinwriting.com to secure your spot today. Hi, Karen. Welcome to the Nourisher Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You just recently started a new job, and I've known you in a couple of different capacities, so it's kind of cool to get to see you make all of these moves. But what are you doing right now, and kind of how did you get there?
So right now I work for Amarillo College, and I am in charge of a really cool class that we require all our students to take it before they can get a degree. And it's really answering the questions, who am I, what do I want, and how do I get there? And it really touches on some mindset and the way you live your life. We actually watch a video in the first week that talks about living a free, out loud kind of life. And that's really a big passion for me and where I am in my life right now. I have had, I feel like, a lot of different careers, but you've mostly known me in my nonprofit career. And a lot of that really led to where I am now. And I get to tell my students about how I'm trying to pursue my big, authentic, free life. And part of that is pursuing my passion of being a writer, of being a published author.
I'm so jealous because I feel like I can't write anything.
I bet you do better than you think.
Well, ChatGPT is my personal assistant.
I'm using that a lot to design some assignments and things now. We're trying to kind of work with it because it's inevitable.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I love the idea of this class or this program that you're teaching because I think it's so important for students in general, but especially at Amarillo College because we have a lot of students who are coming back to school after a long period of time. And that journey of authenticity is just, it's not something that you can teach. So I love that you're able to relate to the students and that's how you're reinforcing your curriculum.
Yeah, it's been so rewarding to hear from students how the class sparks this passion of digging a little deeper, not just pursuing a career that maybe pays the bills or that mom and dad think you should do, or maybe even that you've seen somebody do in your life and so you think that's a good job, whether it fits you or not. And so we talk about, well, does it fit you? Is this a passion of yours? Why do you want to do it? And then we actually plan the steps to do it. But it's that really gratifying part of being a teacher of seeing them catch fire, and really get excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you touched on how let's pursue a career that isn't what our mom or dad told us to do, or even our cousin or whoever makes, 6 figures in the oil field. That might not be the job for you. But when you mentioned that, it kind of just brought me back to where have we been before, and what did life look like for us before we get onto this path of self-discovery? What did your life look like before you decided I need to do something different and I want to pursue my passion?
I do feel like I've kind of reinvented myself over and over. So I'm pretty open about, I've actually been married 3 times now, and so I say third time's a charm. And I've had probably at least 3 career paths as an adult. And I tell my students I've had 8 majors in college. And so, I feel like I've been seeking where it was that I fit best. And I had a few years ago, before the pandemic, it's kind of how we measure time now. But yes. Before the pandemic, I had gotten divorced. I was a single mom. That's actually when I met you. We connected through my kiddo. And I had finished college just before and had gotten my graduate school degree and was kind of floundering in that. I was working in nonprofits, but because of the upset in my personal life, that was struggling too. I was in that place. I think we all have had that place where, or we will, things just kind of domino. And I was there. I was severely overweight. My child was overweight. I was a single mother. I was struggling to pay bills. And then I lost my job. And then I actually wound up losing the next job as a planned thing, but I lost that one. And then I lost the next job because of the pandemic. And so at some point in my career, I felt like this is a sign. I'm big on signs, but I felt like this is a sign that I really need to go back and pursue what my heart really wants. Mm-hmm. And I really thought about, what did I want to do when I was 8 years old? And that was when I started my first novel. Now, I didn't finish it because I was 8. But that was my first attempt at a novel. And that was what I wanted to do for so long in life, was to be a writer. And so I felt like I kind of was pushed by my own misery in a way. And it felt like I'm not going to be happy unless I pursue this and see where it goes.
I hate to say it's like you hit rock bottom, but I'm sure in your mind, in a lot of ways, it felt that way. I don't know if it was rock bottom, but it was definitely a low. I was really unhappy and unhealthy and not able to be the mom I wanted to be or the employee I wanted to be. And then I actually got in a new relationship that miraculously has actually fed into this journey. But at the time, I don't know how that survived and became this beautiful thing, but it was there for a little while. There was a lot of misery. And during that time, how did you keep yourself going? Before you got to this realization where you're like, I have to do something different. How did you almost pick yourself up every day when you were in this valley?
Mostly, what's the alternative? There's a meme that you see sometimes on social media that says, this is a reminder that your track record for making it through the worst days of your life is 100%. And that's true for all of us, right? We've all made it through every worst day that we've had, which should give us some strength and some hope that we can do it for today, right, when we have a bad day. And so what was the alternative? But also, I think a lot of women will identify that I had my child to think of. And I had, when I got my new relationship, I had him to think of, his children. I had my parents, the other people and the other ways that I was serving as a mother, as a partner. Those were what fueled me, was just doing things for other people. Whereas this is for me.
You make such a good point, because I think as women, we're just caretakers. And again, we show up for people more often than we show up for ourselves. And so I do think that contributes a lot to what keeps us going. Yes. But I also know that at some point, I think we all hit our breaking point where we're like, what are we doing for ourselves? And so in very low moments in my life, I can relate. I did the same thing where I was like, okay, I've got to start doing something for me. I can't keep showing up for everybody else. And so it was like one thing a day. What am I going to do today that would make me happy? Sometimes that's a glass of wine. Sometimes it's a bubble bath. And sometimes it's sitting on my couch watching hours of Gossip Girls.
Sometimes it could be learning something new, too, or it could be, developing yourself inwardly. Maybe it's taking a moment to be present. Maybe it's taking a moment to take a deep breath when you need that pause for yourself. I subscribe to an oxygen mask theory where, when you're on an airplane and they say when the oxygen mask falls from the ceiling to put yours on before the small child with you, because you're only good for that child if you're actually breathing. And that, to me, especially as mothers, but as wives, as women in the workplace, but I feel it strongly as a mother. They need to see the women in their lives doing things for themselves so that they know how to do it as adults.
That's such a good analogy with the airplane. I'm going to remember that from now on.
I stole it from someone else, but I don't even remember who to attribute it to.
Well, right here, right now, you can coin that.
Okay.
So I'll take it. Well, I know when it comes to that pivotal point where you are going to actively start pursuing something for yourself, I know there's a lot of emotions that come with that because I feel like we get tugged in both directions where it's like, I need to show up for everybody else. I need to do this for them. But I also am missing out on something for myself, and there's still something missing that's not lighting a spark. So can you walk through kind of the emotional tug? Did you feel like hesitant to pursue your passion because of the other people and the other responsibilities in your life?
So I think it all fell into place at the right time for me. So I'm going to refer back to, again, the pandemic. It's such a touch point in our lives now, in our histories, because it all started to fall in place around then. In like 2019, I think it was 2018, 2019, in that area was when I lost like 3 jobs in a row. And one of them was because of the pandemic, right? Because nonprofits during the pandemic, you couldn't fundraise.
Right.
And so they laid off. But those job losses really pushed me toward exploring my dreams in my professional life. And at the same time, I mentioned I had a new relationship. And at the same time, he was diagnosed, at the time my boyfriend, he was diagnosed with late-stage advanced congestive heart failure. And he's really open about this story. That's why I feel comfortable sharing it. But it's amazing that he has turned it around the way he did because he was dying. He should have been on a heart transplant list. They were listing him for, telling him that he was going to have surgery to have a defibrillator put in. And they told me that I was going to be his nurse. And here's this new relationship, and we both had children. And he really was the first one to take hold of his health and say, I'm not going out that way. He says, he has that dragon pursuing him of if he doesn't take care of himself, that could, and he's had a cardiologist tell him that he never does this, but he wrote resolved in his chart recently because my husband doesn't have evidence that he's my husband now, but he doesn't have evidence.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. We did stay together. But through his pursuit of what led to this, how did I get here to this point physically, and how do I get out of this? It was really that mind, body, spirit, whole wellness, that holistic wellness. And I started just right as a woman to support him. Mm-hmm. Here's my boyfriend in terrible health, and he's, finding a way to climb out of that. I'm going to do it with him and to support him so it's easier for him. Well, when I started doing that, I started feeling better and getting the benefits also. And I had some health problems that weren't insignificant. I wasn't dying, but they weren't insignificant health problems. And so I started feeling better. At some point, I was able to embrace it for myself and learn, oh, how did I get here? Oh, where do I actually want to go? What's important to me? I'm not perfect on it. I've had some backslides and I've had some trip-ups, and I still struggle with what I eat. I still struggle with, making sure I get to the gym every day. But I'm in such a better place now because I came to that point where I went, I'm not going out this way either, right? For me, it wasn't the immediate danger of death, but it was its own immediate. As you mentioned, the emotional aspects of it, sometimes that can feel like its own kind of death, right? And so I also decided that wasn't how I was going out and to pursue that mind, body, spirit journey. So in that, my role as a woman and being a caretaker and all of that really kind of fed into it. And I think that timing of during the pandemic, I wasn't working, he wasn't working, and we got to walk a lot. We got to really control our diets, and there wasn't the same kind of temptation. You can't eat out that much. You can't, splurge as much because it's a very controlled. He goes to the grocery store. He's the only one at certain days and times. And so there was a lot of controls in it. And we talk about that it was one of the best things that happened to us during the pandemic. And that was when we really were able to get really healthy. I feel like it was kind of a perfect storm of people and place and time and what I had lost and what I had to gain.
It's funny how things work out that way because I feel as if the last couple of years of my life, I couldn't have imagined that all of these things would add up to get me to where I am now. And it's like one good thing would happen. A couple weeks later, another good thing would happen. And then another good thing would happen. And not to say that I'm not still grieving who I was before.
Absolutely.
Because that is, like you said, that takes an emotional toll on you as well to be like, it's not a waste. But you think, like, I wasted all those years thinking X, Y, Z or feeling this way or that way. And it's amazing that we can be simultaneously growing but grieving at the same time.
Oh, that's life. Yeah. And it's the beauty of life, right? But we don't often zoom out enough to see it all. And we can't see the whole picture. We can't see the whole puzzle. It's not for us to see. Part of that mind, body, spirit wellness for me has been to learn that I don't see every piece of the puzzle and that what I'm going through right now, whether it's good or bad, in my opinion, is going to work to fit into the puzzle and to be for my benefit ultimately. Whatever your belief system is, however you got here, whatever put you here or whoever put you here, does not want you to fail. So you have to keep in mind, like, you have survived every bad day and you don't see the whole picture. And, we talk about in my class that your career is not a linear path. Well, nothing is. Your life is not a linear path. But we can all look back and see how all those little pieces fit together to make us just who we are, just in this moment. And when we can find the joy in that, even in the heartache, because we know it led us here, that's when we can really start to find that peace and grow from it.
So that leads us into this continued passion of yours. So I'm curious how you go the majority of your life, like you said, 8 years old is when you started writing your first novel, right? Obviously, the topics are going to be very much different than they would in your
very soap opera-y.
And so I'm curious how writing came up again after all these years, and you sit there and you ask yourself, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? Or who do I want to be? And writing comes up again.
It never went away.
Okay.
I've always written something. So I actually was an English major, was one of my first majors out of 8, and thought that I would work in publishing until I could get published.
Okay.
And that was my initial plan. But I very much thought that's not practical. And that's why I wanted to work in publishing, was because that was the practical answer, right? And then I got married for the first time and didn't keep pursuing my education. And so I had put writing into this box of, it's almost like a guilty pleasure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a talent. It's something that I always felt like I'm a good writer and I can use that to communicate. Like, I can write a good email or memo or, in fundraising, it was great for writing communications with donors or volunteers or, trying to get people's attention through words, writing. And so I used it, but writing for a story or for my own purposes, for the messages that I want people to have, or for processing my thoughts. That was what I would do when I had those moments to myself, when I could have my glass of wine in the backyard, or when I could, steal away with a journal when the baby was sleeping, or, those were the times that was for me. And I never considered it a real possibility. Another thing I tell my students is I used to think until pretty recently, kind of embarrassingly recently, that if anybody could be a writer, everybody would be a writer.
Sure.
If anybody could publish a book, everybody would publish a book. And then it hit me one day, oh, not everybody wants to write a book. Not everybody wants to publish a book. But so many times we don't pursue it because we think it's not for us. That's not for me, that's for somebody else. And once I realized, oh, it is for me because I have this talent, all I have to do is reach out and do it. That was the turning point for me of how I use my writing. I got a graduate degree and learned so much how to really hone my writing and be more effective in it. And that's nonfiction writing, but I use a lot of those lessons in my fiction writing now. And I really write a little of both fiction and nonfiction. But it's been a journey that has always involved the writing, even in processing grief. And, it's so valuable to use words for me.
I loved that you said that you've always used it in your quiet times or something that was just for you. But I think it takes another layer of having talent in this area to use it to heal and writing in a way that feels like a release for you, and then turning that into a story where it resonates with other people.
I am part of some writing groups locally, a writing club and a critique group, and we talk about how it's therapy for us. Even if you're not writing, even if you're writing a fantasy on some other planet, which is not the type of writing I do, but I have friends that's what they write, and they still are processing emotions that they have in their life or experiences that they have in their life. When people say write what you know, it doesn't necessarily mean because you have a podcast, you should write a story about having a podcast. Mm-hmm. But it does mean you've had your heart broken, so you can write about heartbreak. And that has been so valuable for me. I have written my way through grief for myself, for others, and I have written my way, hopefully, to sharing that for others to be able to follow that path. My 2 novels really that I've completed to date have really focused on mind, body, spirit wellness. They focus on real life situations, those real tangible changes that you can make. In the first novel is actually about a career change that happens because she starts discovering who she is. And the second one, it's so funny because it's absolutely followed this conversation. The second novel is about when everything seems to be going wrong, and then you figure out that it was actually all leading to the best possible results for you. Taking readers on that journey that I've gone through, but in a fictional way, is a joy to me. And I hope when I have readers beyond just my critique group, or the few people that, I've asked to read it, that is how it's received.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful. And you're taking your personal experience and putting it into characters and a storyline. And I feel like a lot of us fall into that trap of what works for someone else. Let's try that. I love that you're using your own story and just being authentic through your writing, although it's still fiction. Like, that's really cool.
Well, I'm glad you find it cool.
And it's something that I'm sure the readers wouldn't necessarily know unless they know you and your story.
Yeah. And it's funny because as you're, on a new journey, in a new passion, and especially something like writing where I'm trying to find an audience, or having a podcast where you're trying to find that audience, there's always that, well, what's my gimmick? How do I get their attention? And not in a negative, inauthentic way of a gimmick, but what sets you apart? How do you stand higher than the rest of the crowd so that people can see you. And my hope is, in some ways, that because I've lived this, because it is true, and because it is so close to my heart, that comes through in my writing, but also maybe that's how I can be marketed, and how my books can be marketed as, look, I've been there, and this is me trying to share that experience, because I think that resonates for a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. And I think you find the right people, the right audience when you stay true to yourself, and whenever you strictly do this out of passion, you know, because I feel like so many people, when I started the podcast, a lot of people were like, how are you going to monetize it? How are you going to make money? Is this something you want to do full time? And I'm like, I really don't care, to be honest. I'm like, I'm doing this for me, and it was born out of, this is what I need in my phase of life right now, is I need good, deep conversations with good people, and to be able to like trauma dump on people and and feel like I'm not alone, you know? And so I'm like, that's what I need right now. And because I'm doing what I need in order to heal and to keep growing, then whoever needs that message will receive it.
I think we all need community. I know we all need community. That's how we're designed. We're social beings.
I really love when I read a book and I feel like I can relate to the author. They're speaking my language. You know, I just read a book by Erin Hicks Moon. She's actually from this area. She has a book called I Have Questions, and it's kind of diving into like questioning the religion that you were brought up on. Oh. So good. But I remember, I'm like, quick little plug for Erin. But I really loved when I was reading that book. I was like, she gets it. Her tone, the words she used, the examples that she gave, it's all from her real life. And so I felt like she was my best friend, you know? I was like, oh, she is me. And that's what I love about when you use your real life experience and your authenticity to write. People are going to feel that.
I hope so.
Okay, so what does authenticity look like for you? Not just in your writing, but every day. Now that you're on this journey, what does this look like for you?
Since this isn't audio, I have to say I have a tattoo on the inside of my forearm that says boundless. I talk about my purpose. My ikigai is a concept that we talk about in my class, ikigai, which is a Japanese idea of basically what gets you up in the morning. What are you living for? And that can be part of your career. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. And mine, I feel like, is to inspire others to live a big, free, authentic life. And so I have a little tradition for myself that I write a poem for every tattoo that I get. And so for my boundless tattoo, my poem is to live without a template in a way that is deliberate and full of joy. To define choice by the true desires of your heart, not by how hard, not by what might have stopped you, but what you need to do to release control and surrender to love.
Okay, well, everyone that ever said that they get meaningless tattoos or tattoos are meaningless, you just put that to shame. Because every single one has a poem.
I do. I have a poem for every tattoo.
That's beautiful. I love that. Because, boundless is something I wouldn't, it's not a common word you hear when you talk about how people live their life.
That is, to me, that's how I strive, how I want. And listen, I am not doing it every day. There are plenty of days that I put on the fake smile and I say fine when you ask me how I am, and I, tell you that I don't eat sugar, and then I sneak that cookie. Like, absolutely, I am a real person and have all those faults. What I desperately, with all my heart, want is to live that boundless life. In my mind, I picture breaking free of ropes constraining me, of societal expectations, of family expectations, of my own programming and childhood stories that others gave to me or that I gave to myself that are holding me back, to live without a template, to not have to follow that certain plan or that certain has to go this way. You know, I'm a woman, and I feel like women, there's some expectations put on us.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like where we live, sometimes there's a whole set of expectations put on people. You know, I'm a professional. There's a set of expectations that go with that. I'm a mother. Like, the list goes on and on and on. And so if I can stop and take a breath and look at every decision and compare it to, is this who I really am? Does this really resonate with my heart and my true self? Who am I? What do I want? And that can be scary, right? And that's why we don't do it sometimes. And I absolutely, fear is one of my ropes. But my desire is to break free of all of that.
I needed you in my life like a year ago, just so you know.
Anytime, girl.
Because I feel in my soul when you were talking about not living by a template or by the expectation of others. So, prime example, I just got married, but my husband and I remember feeling so strongly for him and him feeling the same way towards me like a month in. And it felt different and it felt right, you know?
Yeah.
But then it was like, but I just got divorced. This is too soon. What are people going to think?
There was some arbitrary, like, timeline you had to follow.
I'm supposed to be divorced for, like, multiple years before I find the love of my life, you know? And then we kind of, like, dabbled in the conversation of marriage and moving in together. And I'm just like, oh, my gosh, this would look so bad, or it would feel like I should ask everybody else's opinion, or to be honest, like, I thought about other people's feelings that were involved in my life before, and how is that going to make them feel? And I remember the second that something clicked, it was like a switch. And my husband had asked me, you know, what is your timeline? What's an ideal timeline for you? And I felt myself word vomit coming up into my mouth to say, well, honestly, it should probably look like this. But I didn't say anything. I just shut my mouth because something in my head said, Kaylor, what do you want?
And nobody probably ever said to you, I hope you're not thinking about marrying. And if they did, shame on them. Okay. But probably very few people would say, well, Kaylor, I don't think that you should be thinking about marrying somebody else yet. Or I think this is too fast. You probably assumed that because that's what we do a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And that's been something that's been coming up for me a lot lately. You know, when our attention is drawn to these things on social media or in life or whatever, where, you know, it's none of my business what other people think of me. And really, I'm making you out to be not a nice person if I'm assuming that you're thinking not nice thoughts about me. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of mean of me. You know, you can turn it back around. On the other hand, somebody might have seen you go through or hear on your podcast, you go through this experience. There might be somebody listening right now who is dealing with that same quandary and thinking, could this be love? Is it too early? Or, you know, that sounds a lot like I'm thinking this job might be right for me, but I think expectations are, you know, on me about that. And so I shouldn't take this job because it won't look right or whatever. But what a gift to give somebody that freedom to live your life in a way that inspires others to live their big, free, authentic life. That's why for me, my purpose is to inspire others to live that way. So I think I have to stop myself and go, okay, I have to live that way so that I can give that gift too to others, you know?
Right. You talked about community a little bit earlier. And so there's different components to that community for sure. So who do you feel like were the closest people to you, or who did you have with you walking alongside you in this new journey of like self-discovery?
I think my husband's probably the biggest one because we're doing it together. Mm-hmm. Like nobody can understand that journey as much as somebody else who's going through it at the same time. So we together lost 200 pounds.
Whoa.
Now, 150 of that was my husband's.
Oh, God. Well, of course.
But,
you know.
Well, but also
them.
a lot of that was water weight from his congestive heart failure.
Sure.
I hope he's fine with me telling his weight loss. I think he is. Because like I said, he also uses his story to inspire people. And that's what his purpose is in life right now, too, even his job. So we really were dieting together. We really were exercising together. We really were, talking about, hey, I learned this thing about myself and my childhood, and I had this inspiration. And we still regularly talk about our epiphanies that we've had that day of, just in learning about ourselves and how we face the world. And we sit together, and every morning we get up at 4 a.m. because he has to be at work at 6:30. And the first thing both of us do is meditate. And so we sit in our living room together, different ends of the couch, and meditate. And for us, that's part of that mind, body, spirit journey. And so sharing that with him has been huge. But also my children watching me has been a really big motivator to keep going, because especially my youngest, he's 16, and he's my biggest encourager on my books. He's like, Mom, you really need to do this dream job. You really need to pursue this. And I know that he's watching to see if I succeed, so he can see if it's worth it to go toward his dream. And for that reason alone, I have to keep going.
When it comes to pursuing our dreams, I mean, I have doubts every single second of every day. And so how do you feel like the people in your support system pulled you out of that or kind of kept you on track?
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes I eat the cookie, But I think with my husband, it's seeing how far he's come and how amazing he's doing, and then wanting some of that for myself.
Yeah.
And I think with my son, it's wanting that for his future, right? Wanting him to see how far I've come and wanting that for himself. I would also say that my sister was a really big supporter in the early days with her own struggles. She was always so proud of me, especially like with career stuff. And having a cheerleader like that will tell you you're doing amazing and that's so cool and brag about you to other people. Like, I hope everybody has somebody in their lives that does that. Because even the days when you're like, I did not do a good job at this today, and then they say, but look at this thing that you did. So I lost my sister almost 3 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. She was my best friend, and it was not expected. And that's been some grief that I've had to work through with writing and everything. But I try to be that for myself because it's what she would have done. And so in a way, that's a way to honor her. And so I hope everybody has somebody. And if you don't, I want to be that person for you. And if I don't know you, you're just listening to the podcast and our paths are never going to meet, you can use my voice if you need to. And just picture me cheering you on and pointing to all the successes you've had. You've had 100% success rate of getting through bad days. You've got this. Somebody needs to tell you that. I'm a big fan of Mel Robbins, and she says at the end of every podcast, if nobody's told you today, I want to be the person to tell you that I love you and you got this. And so I'm going to steal that today on Taylor's podcast. That if nobody's telling you that you've got this, that you're amazing, that you're 100% success rate on getting through bad days, and you can do this, let me be the person to tell you, you've got this.
Well, and then you're also in this community of like-minded people who are also pursuing their passion in writing. So
Yes.
It's also, I think our loved ones, hopefully we're fortunate enough to have our loved ones come alongside us in this new version of ourselves, this journey, this healing. If you don't have that, there are other people who are doing the same thing, who are going through the same struggles, who have the same. Because I think what could be difficult for our family or some of our friends is they're like, I don't know where to start.
Right.
I have family who's like, is this a great idea? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, but you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do hard things.
And sometimes we think, oh, but their mom, they have to say that. Their
That's
dad, they
so
have to say
true.
that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, yes, finding somebody that you don't know that will read what you've written or that will listen to your pilot episode and give you some feedback is so valuable. It took me a long time to call myself a writer because that was a big step. Like, all you have to do is write and you're a writer. But it felt like I was lying to people if I told them I was a writer until I started making money. I started selling some articles for some local magazines and things like that. And then I felt like I can call myself a writer now. And then I found a writers group locally. And now it's so easy to call myself a writer because most weekends I'm doing something with this group of people that we can talk about writing, and that's how we connect. And I have a critique group of these wonderful women that we support each other in whatever we're going through, whether it's having a grandbaby or, somebody in our family is sick or whatever, or one of us is sick or whatever the situation is. We support each other and love each other. And then we also bare our souls through our writing to each other. And then we tear it apart if we need. There's the idea from the Bible of iron sharpens iron. And so another man can sharpen another man. And that's what we try to do for each other is sharpen each other. Sharpen our writing, sharpen each other as friends, as that chosen family, as that community, right? And so one of my friends might have written something that is beautiful, but did you really have to use that word 50 times in that one little section? I'm going to point it out because I want to help her make it better. I love the meme that I've seen, the quote that is, let's straighten another queen's crown without having to tell the world.
Yes.
And so that's us. We're straightening each other's crowns. And now I'm telling the world, but not pointing it out to everybody, but making sure that you're putting your best foot forward. And we can do that in our passion. We can do that with people we love. But hey, I think you could do this so much better here. Here's an idea of here's something you could do for your podcast and make it a little bit better so that your crown's a little bit straighter. Let's support each other in that.
Absolutely. And I think one key piece to having a real community is honesty.
Absolutely. Authenticity again, right?
Yes. I feel like that word is a theme of my life. Everyone who's been on this podcast, I feel like that is the theme of their life, at least right now. And it takes a minute to get there.
Yeah.
But yes, to have an authentic community, you have to have people who are there to cheer you on, and they don't expect anything in return, but they're there to lift you up. Yeah. And sometimes lifting you up, it hurts a little.
Right? It can be a little rough.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about, the podcast being the Nourisher. And I think about you have plant stuff on your merch, and it's that idea of you're a plant growing, and what do you need? You need sunlight, you need water, you need plant food. Maybe you need a little pruning, right? You need a little bit of cutting the dead ends off.
Yes.
And that water, that purity is the authenticity, I feel like. That's where if you have dirty water, yeah, the plant's going to do okay, but some clean water might do even better for it, right? That authenticity, that real stuff. Organic produce as opposed to the chemicals.
All of your analogies are so spot on.
Yeah, it's a hazard of the trade.
You're she might be a writer. I don't know. Okay, Karen, well, tell us, what is next for you, right? I love that you have come into this space in your life and this version of you where you are chasing authenticity every single day, but especially through your writing. You are a writer.
Thank you.
And no matter what you think, you are a writer. And so what do you plan to do with that now?
Yeah. I love moments like these because you're encouraging me and pushing me to continue being authentic. Because if people hear me on your podcast and then I go out and I lie, I live my life inauthentically, I don't pursue my writing. You're pushing me to, what's next? What are you doing, Karen? What are you doing with this? You're doing your passion, but what are you doing with it? And so right now I'm trying to edit and rewrite on my 2 novels. And in September, The third weekend in September, we're hoping to be an annual thing every September. Texas High Plains Writers is this group that I'm part of locally, and it's been around for like 100 years. We are putting on a conference, and we're going to have like some agents and editors and stuff there, like for publishing. And so my goal is to have my novels ready to submit. That's my like next timeline goal, right? And if I don't get it published there, I will keep looking for, I'm really wanting to publish my novels, what's called traditionally, instead of self-publishing. And so I'd have an agent and, go through a publishing house and all that. That's my goal. Until something else tells me to do it a different way, because we don't see the big puzzle, right? We don't see all the pieces. So my next goal is hopefully to get an agent or to get a publisher. If somebody, loves hearing what I've talked about and just wants to represent me, I'm sure Kaylor can get a hold of me for it. But that's my goal, is to try to publish these novels. And then, I'm always trying to do short stories for submission and smaller things. I'm probably getting another tattoo soon, so there will be a new poem for that one. I love my job here at AC, and I love the opportunity to inspire the students. And I've toyed with the idea of doing a nonfiction book based on what I teach in the class, because I think I encounter people every day who go, oh, I wish there had been a class like that when I was in school, because the topic is just so valid for everybody. And so I've thought about putting some of what I've learned, not in an analogy, not in a story, but just, helping share that story in a nonfiction way. So maybe that's the next project to write. I'm not sure. I've been trying to finish what I started first on these 2 novels that I've already started. And so getting them polished up and getting them published.
That's amazing.
Next. It's exciting.
I really hope that, I hope the conference is kind of a kickstart for the next chapter for you.
Thank you.
And I already know you're inspiring so many people in your class just by your personal life experience and being able to share that story with students and hopefully inspire them. And so I know they're cheering you on. They're also in your support system also. So I wish nothing but the best for you in your writing journey. But I'm just really proud of how you've come out of the valley and discovered yourself. And it wasn't always easy, and you're still doing it. It's a never ending.
It never ends.
It's a never ending project for sure. Like decorating your house.
Absolutely.
But I love to meet women who have gone through a really dark low in their life, and then acknowledging that they're maybe not even 100% out of it, but this is what they're doing to get out of it. And that being honest and saying, I don't have it all together. I don't have it figured out, but this is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm making progress.
I feel like we have to do that for
towards
each other,
healing.
right?
Yeah.
We're walking together on this journey, and we're all somewhere. None of us are at the finish line until, we pass. And a lot of times we don't know when that is. And so we're somewhere on that journey. And why would I even compare where I am on it to where you are on it? I'm just going to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. If any of it helps you, great. I want to support you, and I want to help you, and I want to inspire you, and let's just do this together.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the entire point.
I agree.
Okay, well, I always ask all of my guests a couple of questions. Okay, so the first question is, what is one thing that most people may not know about you?
Okay, so you gave me a heads up on this question, and this is the hardest question for me. I never know.
I'm horrible at it.
Here's my answer. It's none of my business what other people think about me. And I hope that I'm living authentically enough that there's not a lot that would surprise people. So I'm a little bit copping out because I don't know what would surprise people, but also I don't want to try to figure out what people think about me or what they focus on with me or what would surprise them, because I just want to lay it all out there, and this is me. This is who I am. And if it surprises you, cool. Hopefully that's in a good way.
I actually really respect that answer. I want everyone who meets me in person to be able to say the same things about me. I mean, obviously, certain people have their opinions. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Cool. But I want people to be like, oh, she told me that she does this in her spare time. They're like, oh my gosh, I know she said that, to me too. So I think I really love that answer, and it's a real answer because I'm horrible at that question too.
I was in a book club meeting the other night. I'm in a book club, and asked them, what would your answer be? And like one person had an answer, and everybody else didn't know what they would say either. So
it's because everybody in their life knows them.
Yes.
Because they're very transparent.
Hopefully.
People would say that's probably too trusting, but whatever. Okay, the next question is, who are 3 women who inspire you?
So I think Barbara Kingsolver is an author, very famous author, Pulitzer Prize winner. But she really inspires me by the way she writes. She's like my favorite author. The way she writes, the way she uses words. But also she's been able to do nonfiction, fiction, and poetry. And she's very passionate about her causes. And like she writes about things that are important to her and puts them in fiction or nonfiction or poetry. And in a lot of those ways, that's the kind of writer I want to be. So she's very inspirational to me on a professional level. And then I mentioned Mel Robbins earlier. I listen to her podcast all the time, and I include stuff from her in my class because it's along the same. She does the mind, body, spirit, wellness, and everything. And what I really like about her, honestly, is that she's very honest about. She started out as an attorney and hated it. I mean, in a lot of ways, she hated it. And she decided that she would do what she was passionate about in helping people and talking and doing presentations. And then that turned into doing podcasts. And I identify with so much of that and that journey. And then the journey of where she is now and how she's helping people and what she's inspiring them with and the authenticity piece. So that's still a little bit professional, but really I feel like that's my passion. That's where I'm inspired on my passion. And then my third one is my sister. She was my best friend, and we were very, very close and did not expect to lose her. And in that, I learned that we're not promised tomorrow. And so I try to live each day. I'm not always good at it, but when I can remember, I don't know if this is my last day. Have I done everything that I wanted? She was planning a trip, with me. And she didn't think that was her last day, year, any of it. And I didn't either. So we're not promised tomorrow with loved ones. We're not promised tomorrow for ourselves, for our goals. And so that has inspired me to live with a little more urgency, telling people I love them, pursuing goals, all of those things. But also because she was my biggest cheerleader and she was my biggest fan. And when I was on the news for a fundraiser or something, like she would put it all over her social media. Like, this is my baby sister and look what she's doing. I'm so proud of her. And that always made me feel like I could do anything. And I think, okay, I need to continue that for myself and for others the way she did for me.
Well, and I just think, again, the fact that she's not here, but you're still taking so much inspiration for how she lived her life and how she was showing up for the people that she loved, and you being able to say, I want to be that person. But not only for everybody else, I want to be that person for me. Like, yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, I lost the person who did that for me. And I've seen a lot of people talking about, like, in grieving someone, a way to honor them is to love yourself the way they would have loved you, to do the things for yourself that they would have done for you. And it's a way to still keep her close.
Yeah. That's so good. That's great advice. Ugh, this is just full of little tidbits of life advice that I think is so valuable. So, Karen, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and your journey, but also how you're still working towards that healing. And it's just really great that people are willing to come and open their hearts for other people, complete strangers even, to hear. So,
thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Is there somewhere where people can find your work, where to look out for any news if something were to happen with your writing, or are you still kind of on the down low?
I'm really trying to do all of my online stuff, and I'm really bad at it, but I do have a Facebook where they could follow me. I definitely would encourage people, if they're interested in writing at all, to be a part of THPW, Texas High Plains Writers. We're on Facebook, we're online, and you can just Google Texas High Plains Writers or look for it on Facebook. And that's a great way to get plugged into a writing community and some people to encourage you. And I'm very involved with that, so it's even a way to connect with me if you're wanting to talk to me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Anybody can reach out to me if they're interested in knowing more about what I'm doing. And like I said, I have a website, actually, KarenBenckenstein.com. It's like under construction. So
I feel like
this is good motivation.
Yeah, websites are, again, like home decor, a work in progress.
Always a work in progress.
Every single day. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us for another great conversation with Karen today. If her story of resilience and authenticity spoke to you, I'd love for you to take just a moment to leave a rating or review. It really helps the Nourisher podcast reach more women who might need these reminders of hope and connection. And if someone special came to mind while you were listening, like a sister, a friend, or a coworker, we'd love for you to share this episode with her, because you never know how much she or anyone in her life might need to hear these words today. So thanks again for tuning in. I can't wait to see you for the next episode. And until next time, stay strong, stay connected, and keep growing.